This is how to do algebra with Shelby and Jennifer. The first thing you have to do is grab a piece of paper and find somewhere comfortable to sit. Now, write out your equation. This is not an algebra equation. An algebraic expression, another name for an algebraic equation, has to have a variable. A variable is usually a letter in italics. I have a sample equation here that we're going to use today. The first thing you have to do is establish two sides of your equation. You draw a line through your equation, right through the equal sign, to show this. The next thing you have to do is to distribute on both sides of the equation. To distribute, you multiply this number by that number and that number by that number, and you end up with something like this. And so the plus 12 and the 16y minus 2 don't change. The next thing you want to do is combine like terms on both sides of the equation. So those are like terms right there. 4y, you'd combine 4y with 12y, for example, and you'd combine 25 with 2, for an example. So when you combine like terms on our sides of the equation, you'll end up with 12y plus 18. And then you can't combine anything on the other side of the equation because they are not the same. Now you have to move the variables together and the numbers together. You do this by doing the opposite action. So if you have a negative number, you have to change it to a positive number and move it to the other side of the equation. You know if the numbers are negative and positive by these signs in front of them. So this would be a negative 2 and this would be a positive 18. And because these two numbers don't have any signs in front of them, they are both positive. So now when we did the opposite action with two of our numbers, and you'll end up with something like this. So now the next thing you want to do is combine the like terms again. And so 12y minus 16y, you'll end up with negative 4 and negative 16 on the other side of the equation. Now these 4's down here mean that you're dividing, because 4y, that means you're multiplying. And so you take the number beside the variable and divide it on both sides of the equation. So this 4y divided by 4 cancels out. So we'll cross it out. And so negative 16 divided by negative 4, because we're dividing negative by a negative, it equals a positive. And you'll end up with your answer, y equals 4. And that is the first step, part of the algebra process. Now you have to go back and check. Now we begin the check. As you can see, we put up the check equation already. So what we did is we took where the y was and we put the 4 to replace it, because that's what you do when you check. So we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to distribute, and you'll end up with something like this. 12 bracket 4 plus 6 plus 12. And the other side didn't change again. The next thing you're going to do is combine like terms again. And so you'll end up with something like this. 12 plus 18. And 16 on the other side of the equation does not change. The next thing you're going to do is do the opposite action again. So you're doing the exact same thing you did in algebra, except there's no variable this time because you're checking to make sure you did it right. So you end up with something like this. As you can see, these are very similar things to what we did the last time. So now that we have our variables on the same side of the equation and our numbers on the same side of the equation, we're going to combine them together, just like we did last time, and we end up with something like this. Now we're going to divide again, and just like last time, this side cancels out. So we're going to cross it out again. Now negative 16 divided by negative 4 equals 4. And so, now that you have a 4 here, you know that your equation works because you got 4 the first time and 4 when you checked. And that is how you do algebra.